Hey everybody, so thanks for tuning into this one. Go ahead and subscribe if you don't mind, and put some comments down below once you finish watching this. Let me know what you think. So today's video is going to be about cheat meals, or as I like to call them, free meals or untracked meals, and then also on refeeds. I'm going to talk a little bit about what each of them are, and then some applications and considerations for both of those things. So first of all, what is a cheat meal? Or what is a free meal? I'm just going to call it that moving forward. So a free meal is basically a meal, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a meal that you don't track. You eat whatever you want, depending on the situation, within reason, and it's going to be typically hypercaloric in nature. So it's going to be a little bit higher in calorie than what your other meals would be, or what your normal meal would be at that time, or your total daily intake. It's going to take that up a little bit. So, most people go to something they enjoy. A lot of times a burger and fries is the meal of choice. Or some other. You might do like a fattier cut of steak with some, like a loaded potato of some sort. Maybe a dessert, something like that. So, and then sometimes people do like sushi or pizza or whatever. So sometimes it's not completely free. There's different situations that can call for different types of foods and that sort of thing. So, but that's kind of the definition of the meal. It's a meal that's off plan, kind of. So if that's why I don't like calling it a cheat meal, because if it is part of the strategy for weight loss or whatever, the purpose of it is, then it's not technically off plan. It's just different. So typically with my clients, I use the term free meal so as not to create some sort of bad relationship with food, or some sort of guilty association with that meal. So just that's the reasoning behind the free meal context. So the difference between a free meal and a refeed is going to be the strategy behind it. So a free meal, again, it's just one meal, hypercaloric, extra calories, foods you like, that kind of thing. But a refeed is going to be something that's a little bit more strategic. So a refeed could be anywhere from, a one meal refeed that's got a little bit more, reasoning behind it, all the way up to a diet break, which could last a week or two, or somewhere in between, or even longer. So typically what I will do, as far as the free meals, cheat meals, for my general population clients that are not competitors, for the most part, I will, at check-ins, advise to have a free meal each week or each weekend. That's just because, you can get away with a few extra calories, once a week or that sort of thing, up until a certain point. So, as long as I see that it's not hindering progress, then I'll continue to give free meals. Not everybody wants those. Not everybody needs, a meal off plan. But especially if it's a holiday, or if somebody has an event or something like that, I will, advise to have that. And so in contest prep, it's sort of the same situation, right? So in the beginning of a prep, metabolisms are pretty high, hopefully. Caloric intake's pretty high. So adding in a few extra calories in one meal isn't necessarily going to slow progress. So early in a prep, a lot of times I'll have people continue to have weekly free meals, and until it gets to the point where it has to be a little more specific. So the goal with these free meals typically is just going to be a psychological relief. I'm not. I mean, I've dug into some of the literature, mostly from a third party perspective, so podcasts and interviews and that sort of thing. So I haven't actually read through a lot of the literature, but I am familiar with some of it just based on some of the authors and some of the people who are in that academic world that have spoken on it, or whatever. So my understanding of it is that a free meal at one time, just extra calories at one point, isn't going to actually speed up metabolism at all. It will restore glycogen in your muscles if it's higher in carbs, and that could actually provide some extra energy for the next few days workouts, or at least the next one workout. So that might be something that you could benefit from, is just a few extra calories to burn, to put on some muscle, or to toward training, toward the muscle building process. So you might benefit from having the extra calories in your training and your mood and that kind of thing. But as far as actually just keeping metabolism going, one free meal isn't going to do a whole lot for that. And sometimes, if you're dieting, you just need a break from it, right? Like, you need to be able to go eat a meal that you're not tracking, or that isn't on a plan, or that isn't boring or bland or whatever. And so you need a break from that. Or if you have some type of social event to go to, whether it's a wedding or, a date night or whatever that may be, then that free meal is a nice little break from the monotony of dieting. So those are kind of the reasons for the free meals. Within a dieting context, right? So if I have someone who's in a growing phase, a lot of times, if I see that their weight is stalled or something like that, then I will give them a free meal on top of everything else they're doing, to get in the extra calories, and also, as a psychological break, and to give them an opportunity to go do something fun with a friend or significant other, or in a group or whatever. So that's kind of when the free meals and the cheat meals, if you will, could make sense and would be a benefit. So a refeed is an entirely different thing. And I'll do some of these with my general population non-competitors as well. But primarily, I definitely will still do those. But the best time that I've seen that these can be a benefit is in a contest prep. In a contest prep, you're getting into a place where your metabolism is adapting to the lower calorie intake and the higher energy output, whether it's from cardio or training volume, that sort of thing. So your metabolism will adapt. And again, my understanding of some of the research out there is that multiple days of higher carbs will cause the metabolism to, it will fight against some of that adaptation. So if you are, in a hypocaloric state where you're in a deficit and you're dieting and you're eating less than you're burning and you're burning fat and that sort of thing, a lot of times if you stall, you can take somewhat of a diet break, whether that's 2 days, whether that's a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever that may be, and you can get the metabolism to begin to respond again. And then once you get back into that deficit again, your body should respond to the fat loss. So ideally, if you are in a contest prep and you're dieting down and you run into a plateau, you can add a few days of higher calories back up to like a maintenance, which means you're not burning fat, because you're taking in exactly what you're burning, which it's metabolisms are dynamic, so it's not always going to be perfect, but you can get to a place that's a little bit closer to that. So once you get back into that deficit, hopefully the body responds and you'll begin to lose fat again. Sometimes you don't have time to test that out, right? So sometimes you're in a contest prep and you've only got so many weeks left, and you need to just step on the gas, right? So you're not able to do the higher calorie days. You actually just have to take away food or add cardio or some combination of the two. So, and like I said, even in my Gen Pop clients, I will give a couple of high carb days occasionally, to make sure the metabolism is going to continue to respond. Another thing that you can do with this is, if you have certain muscle groups, that you have weakness in and you need to bring up, you can do the higher carb days around those training days. So somebody asked me in one of my Instagram Q&As when the best time for that free meal would be, and so I'm going to answer as far as refeeds as well. If my preference, for me and probably for most people, would be to have the higher calorie meal or the higher calorie days prior to a weak muscle group training session. So for me, my legs are a weakness, and I usually train those on Saturdays. So if I'm dieting and I'm going to have a free meal or I'm going to have a couple high carb days, they're going to be Thursday and Friday because I train legs on Saturday. So that way my glycogen stores are a little bit more full for when I do go to train legs, and so I'm able to maybe eke out a couple more reps in that session. So that might be a good strategy, as far as that goes. As far as like food selection, I'll touch on both of them. So if you're doing the free meal, sometimes, if you're dieting down and you need that psychological break, you you can be kind of, somewhere in the middle, right? So you're not far enough out that you can eat whatever you want and it won't matter, but you're not close enough, or you're not, you don't have so much body fat that you can't afford, a few extra calories. So, you might do something closer to a show that's going to be, like a burger and fries, just like one specific, order and that kind of thing. So you know exactly what you're getting in. You're not, taking in desserts. You're not doing appetizers, anything like that. And it's not going to really, put on a lot of body fat or anything like that. It's also a good gauge for if you're getting ready for a contest. If you need a quick source of calories in order to fill out your muscles, it's a good idea to try foods in those free meals that you might use for a show. That way you can tell if they're going to upset your digestion, which could cause you to hold water. So if you're doing free meals in a contest prep, that's a good idea to think about, is just consider what you might use to fill out for a show, and test those foods out with your digestion as you lead up to the show. As far as the refeeds, it's the same type of idea. So in peak week, and I'll do a video on that at some point, I'm sure. In peak week, you want to carb up and you want to have a nice full, crisp look that's not inflamed, and it's, your muscles are full of glycogen. And so you're going to use foods that you've been eating all prep, and you're going to use more of those. So like if you've been eating jasmine rice all prep, that's probably what you want to use to carb up, into your show. It's the same thing with the refeed. If you're eating, say you've set yourself up with a meal plan, if you're on macros, or if your coach gives you a meal plan or whatever, and you're given, extra food, you're probably just going to add more of what you're eating. So if you're eating, rice or cream of rice or potatoes or whatever it is, you're going to just probably do more of those in those, the higher carb refeeds. That way, one, you're not upsetting your digestion because you can handle the foods that you've been eating. And two, from a flexible dieting approach, a lot of times, we'll want to fit in some fun foods, whether it's kids cereal or Pop-Tarts or, whatever like that. But when you're in a deficit, for a while, and you're in a contest prep and you're dieting and you're starving and you're exhausted, and you take a bite of a Pop-Tart or a cereal or something like that, it's going to be really hard to not want to eat the whole box. So it's better to just stick with foods that will not, stimulate that or not trigger that, binge type of response. So it's best to just eat more of the same foods that you've been eating, as far as those refeeds. I think that's pretty much it as far as, those two types of situations. As far as my strategies, I like to keep refeeds and free meals in as long as I can in prep. But I'm also not afraid to take food down, when it's necessary. So, if you are considering hiring me, or if you work with me, just know that I like to feed you, but I won't if we can't afford it, in order to be ready for to be successful on stage. So if you guys have any questions, comments, whatever, anything you want to correct me on or whatever, feel free. Just put those below. But thank you guys for sticking with this one, and I hope it was helpful. See you next time.